Philanthropy. I'm Bonnie Solomon. I'm the immediate past chair of Women's Philanthropy and a proud member of our outreach committee this year. Women's Philanthropy is so excited to bring the community together for this series. We've been able to learn together, have fun together, and stay connected even while we're physically apart. Some Zoom housekeeping manners. We will be recording this session. Please mute yourself. Now Jessica has done that for us if you haven't already done so. And if you have any questions for Linda, please put them in the chat or indicate you have a question in the chat. That way she'll recognize you. Since there are so many on the call, you may want to switch to speaker view to see her better. I would like to thank Julie Yowitz, who's Vice Chair of Engagement, and the Women's Philanthropy Outreach Committee for their ideas and leadership putting together this exciting series of speakers. Women's Philanthropy's purpose is to connect as a community with each other as Jewish women, as well as with many important agencies and programs that the Jewish Federation of St. Louis supports. Again, we want to thank you for participating in this series. It's been so wonderful to see all of you virtually. And while today is the last of this specific series, we want you to know that there are a few upcoming events for you to put on the calendar. Please mark your calendar for 6:30, June 30th at 6:30. So that's June 30th at 6:30 p.m. for a fun and inspiring kickoff to the Jewish Federation's annual campaign. This is a virtual event that you won't want to miss. We're also excited to remind you that our L'Chaim event will take place on October 27th and feature Barry Weiss, Barry, B-A-R-I, Weiss. She's a writer and editor for the opinion section of the New York Times. There'll be more details coming soon. And we hope that you will get involved in as many ways as you can, but please reach out to the Women's Philanthropy team to be part of any planning committees. Now, a little about our speaker. Linda Custer founded Total Interior Designs in 1976, specializing in the psychology of interior design. Linda is a member of the American Society of Interior Designers, and her work has been published locally and nationally and has won several awards in the industry. Linda has participated in research projects related to the effects of interior spaces, and the goal is to create pleasurable surroundings where people can thrive. Linda is active in the Jewish community, serving on the board of Women's Philanthropy, the Jewish Federation, and United Hebrew Community Safety and Security Committees. And Linda was a proud recipient of the 2020 High Award at United Hebrew Congregation. Linda is most proud of her role as a wife to her late husband, mother, and grandmother. Just ask her. Linda, take it away.
You bet, just ask me. I bore you all to death with my grandchildren's stories. Hi and welcome. I'm so glad to see you all. And today we are going to talk about the psychology of interior design, which is what my specialty is. When I started the company in '76, amazing how I haven't gotten that much older, but oh well. The idea was, I didn't like what was going on in the industry. Designers were very elitist, and they imposed what was the latest fad in New York or wherever onto their clients, regardless of whether their clients liked it or not, or were comfortable with it or not. And I just knew this was not the way to be, because to me, our spaces affect us on so many levels that we need to be sure that we are maximizing our benefits in our space. So that's why I focused more on that. Interestingly enough, my colleagues all kind of switched over and went more in my direction. And I'm glad, because that afforded others to have designers that changed their attitude and their ideas. So I'm going to give you a little illustrated story about what it means to use psychology in interior design. got a call from a woman who wanted me to come in and update her home, and particularly the family room. So I made a consultation appointment because I always meet with the client/clients, before either one of us decide if we're going to work together well. And I told her, I said, she said her husband was not really into this. I said, well, we have to be sure he's at this meeting. So he was, and he was completely opposed. I mean, absolutely opposed. So they started their little bit of arguing back and forth, which I didn't find comfortable, but that's how people can be. And I was trying to explain to him that I am sure if he will just take the time to answer my questions, because I have certain questions I ask that give me way more information than what the question seems, and that I can create these beautiful surroundings that he will be very, very happy in. And he's like, no, this is my spot. This is my chair. He has one, those, remember Archie Bunker's chair? He had one of those chairs, and he just did not want anything changed. I said, okay. Well, this went back and forth for a while, and I could see things were not getting anywhere. So I finally turned to him and I said, okay, how about this? If I promise you, and I guarantee you that you will really be happy with what the design is, will you let me do it? No. I said, okay, better than that. If I tell you I won't charge you if you're not happy, how about that? And he was like stunned. And he says, what do you mean you won't charge? I said, I won't charge you for my design time. I said, you'll pay for the items, but I won't charge you for my design. Really? I said, yeah. I said, and you have to be totally honest with me too, though. So he finally agreed. Well, we went through this process, and et cetera, and time passed. And I tried to, not have them come in the room until I had it all set up, et cetera, et cetera. So he comes in with an attitude, and he walks in, and I kind of escorted him to his little area and his new chair, and he sat down and so on, and then total silence. And then he finally turned to me and he said, I don't know what it is that you did. He says, but I really like it, and I'm really comfortable in my space here. I said, well, I'm not going to tell you what I did, but are you going to pay me? And he said, absolutely. So I'm like, okay, then I accomplished it. What I did was I got enough information about this man to be able to place subliminal messages in his peripheral vision. Now, he was there focusing on his television. That was his love. But a television's a television, and when it's off, it's nothing. So I used artwork and different artifacts that I knew would trigger positive feelings and reactions in him. And I did it in his peripheral view so that he wasn't paying direct attention, but it was getting into him. And that's why he didn't know what it was I did. And I do that in most of my designs. So it's not only fun, but it's very effective. People don't realize what it is. And I can tell you the same thing happens. You'll relate to this even easier, I think, in a restaurant. How many times have you gone in a restaurant where the food was good, the service was good, prices were acceptable, but when you left, you know you're never going to go there again? It's because whatever the design was in that restaurant, either the lighting affected you in a negative way, or just the decor, something affected your subliminal in a way that you knew, even though those other things were good, you weren't going back to that restaurant. That's the point of the psychology of interior design, because it hits you in lots of different ways you don't realize. So one of the things I did want to touch on is we've all been so happily nestled in our little places for so long now that I didn't know if, you might want to pay attention to those spaces. Usually when I start with a client, I say, I want you to start at your front door. Now, these people have lived in their homes for years, and you guys probably have, or maybe not. But to get in touch with the space, you start at the front door and you literally walk into every room, and you walk into every corner of every room, and you look at it from all of those different angles and perspectives. It's amazing what people find out when they do that. Even people who absolutely love their spaces can go, oh, maybe I could move that thing over a little bit and free this space a little. So get in touch with your spaces. And I know you've been in them for a long time, so I'm pretty sure you're familiar with them, but it doesn't mean you're really familiar with the messages your spaces are giving you. So check that out. And then I'm also a fan of repurposing. So there's many different things that you can do that I was thinking, people have these like heirlooms. I find them and they're, like I said, what have you got in the basement? And they bring out all this stuff that they think is nothing. And we turn it into like the major piece in their house, the conversation piece. So before you just get rid of everything, kind of pay attention to something that speaks to you. And you can always transform it. You can transform it through paint. You can transform it refinishing, and particularly with fabric. And don't just be limited to upholstery fabric. If you had some really beautiful coat, all right? I was thinking of a gorgeous fabric that was on a coat that my mother had. And you could take a piece of that fabric and make a footstool, a bench, a chair, a seat for an odd chair that isn't part of a set. So there's lots of different things you can do, not only to repurpose, because I don't like everything in dumps. Let's get the landfill under control here. But it's also because it has meaning to you, and it's more interesting than if you just go out and buy a cookie cutter thing that everybody else has got. So at this point, you have an option. I can stop talking and answer questions, or if you don't ask me questions, then you'll have to hear another one of my stories. Open. But I don't know how to see.
I can, instead of unmuting everyone, which will then hear background noise, I will if you go over where the microphone is and click it yourself, you can unmute yourself. Or if you'd like to put something in chat, we can read it for you, whatever you prefer.
Talk to me, talk to me. I do have other stories though, if you don't talk to me.
I'll ask you a question, Linda.
Okay.
When is it time to regroup in your space? Is there a particular amount of months, years, redecorating, and where do you start and when?
Okay. The way the industry looks at time, okay, I don't look at a time, because if someone is really happy and comfortable with what they have, there is no specific time. But if you look at the industry, it says, if you, within 5 years from doing a redesign, a redecorate, remodel, that's classified as still new. And this is based on real estate industry. After the 5 years, 5 to 10 years, then it becomes recent. And after the 10 years, it becomes dated. So if you want to go by the rules, which I'm not a rule person, that gives you that timeline. Personally, I don't think somebody has to totally start over unless they want to, because there's a lot of ways to change up your space. Just give you an example. My granddaughter, here we go, guys. My granddaughter, Ava, who is 5, I have some shelves with crystal pieces. I love collecting art glass, paperweights and crystal things. And she saw them and she goes, Granny, oh, they're so pretty. I said, yeah, well, they'd be prettier if they weren't so dirty. So she says, can we wash them? I thought, wow, I have to entertain this kid, so what a good idea. Well, we washed them and we put them back different places. I actually let her I helped her with redesign the way this went. And that little bit of change, though they did look really good clean, changed the space just by moving some of these small pieces around. So it gets you excited, gets your brain going. It's like, oh, that feels so new now. So you can do a lot of change without having to do a mega change if you don't want to. Anybody?
Linda?
Marilyn.
Okay, so let's say a person did their kitchen 20 years ago and they put in several $1,000s, you know, in counters, cabinets, etc. 20 years brings a lot of change. What can one do to not expensively update that kitchen?
The least expensive thing you can do to change the face of kitchens is the hardware. And that's the simplest thing you can do. I recently changed a client's, this was interesting because it was a client of mine that I'd been working with for 25 years. And so I've redone things as we go along. But this last time, it was a matter of changing the countertops. So if you think about it, the least expensive thing and difficult thing is hardware, then comes countertops. If the cabinets are in good shape, well, that's great. As long as you don't want to change the space or the configuration, you can do quite a bit with that. And then, of course, flooring. But, oh, and faucet. That's another thing that will change your kitchen because 20 years ago, faucets looked a lot different than they do today. Somebody else?
I have another one for you. Every year, the interior design people come out with trends, you know, that they're colored trends and other kinds of trends. How quickly, if at all, should someone jump on the trend bandwagon? And how long does that trend last? And are you a trend follower yourself as an interior designer?
Okay, absolutely not a trend follower. When I say not a follower, I know the trends. I know what they're doing. I get it. I am published a lot about, I guess you guys have seen this, and I think it's a St. Louis Homes and Lifestyles, when it says, you know, classic or, you know, craze. They have a little article called Classic or Craze, and I get quoted a lot in it because, interestingly enough, certain things that are classic were crazes, and then they became crazes and they became classic. It's not about what's in, like I said before, because it's your home is not about a trend. It's about, first of all, what is efficient? What is comfortable? What is maximizing your space in terms of how you live in your home? And yes, of course, colors and fabrics and all that kind of thing is wonderful, and I keep up with the trends, but I am not a trend designer because I don't, that is alien to the psychology of interior design.
Linda?
Yes, Linda.
Linda,
Hi.
what do you suggest to someone who has tons of pictures all over every surface in the house? And I've run out of space, and I keep thinking, how many of these, how long do I keep them up? And as the grandkids get older, I add new ones. I don't take away the other ones. What's your suggestion?
Normally, when I'm working with clients, I try to find like a gallery area and, you know, say, okay, let's create a gallery of the photos if you need and want to keep that many. Because I try not to have them just everywhere in the house. It gets very distracting because photographs, there's so many different looks in photographs, sizes and everything. So I try to create a gallery look. And then what we do is to narrow down age pictures, you know, choose a particular age that you, of a person you want to follow every so many years, and then frame them the same, you know, create a look from the framing, even though they're different sizes. And when I say the same, I don't mean every single picture is in the same exact frame, but you do groupings. And then if you have tons and tons, put them on your computer and let it be a rolling picture event, because you do run out of space and it's hard
Thank
to
you.
test them all.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'll ask you
Along-
another.
What?
Go ahead, whoever that was.
It was Marilyn. I was going to say, adding to Linda Sandmill's question, you could have the rotating collection. Linda knows my house. I could easily have the summer, fall, winter, spring collections out.
Yeah, but yours are not photographs.
No, I know. I'm being.
Yours is
But
art.
even with photographs, though, you could rotate
Sure.
every few months so that all of the photographs are out at a certain time.
Yeah, you can do
I mean,
that.
if there's that many of them, that one gallery space is not enough to hold them all.
Right. Somebody else was saying something?
I was. I don't know if part of your history has been in staging houses, especially if they're going to be for sale or for rent. And I wondered if you could speak about staging as a strategy for showing or selling your home.
Yes, I am not a staging company, so I have not gone full out because staging companies have warehouses of furniture and so on that they go in and do. I don't do that. But what I do is I work with my clients, particularly downsizing, because I'm the designer for Aberdeen Heights retirement community. So I've worked with people who are downsizing, and what we do is I'll set up vignettes, because actually vignettes can be more helpful than a room full of furniture. Because what a vignette does, it doesn't lock the person who's coming in to look at the home into a specific style. It just lets the room feel comfortable and lived in instead of an empty box. So we will do things like vignettes with the people's furniture or accessories or whatever it is that we need to use while the house is up for sale. And then usually it's not stuff that they're taking with them when they're downsizing anyway. And so it works out well. But no, I'm not a staging person.
That leads me to another, you piqued my interest. How has technology changed the way you operate, so to speak? Have you incorporated that, and how in your practice?
Well, yes, I have of course been able to use the online things, et cetera, and so on. What's changed the most for me, in fact, this will be an announcement to some of you, is that instead, I am no longer doing big projects. December of 2019, I closed my corporation, and now I am just a consultant. So as far as technology goes, I don't have to deal with it that much. And the reason I did that is all my craftsmen retired. And I was not about to, after 44 years, start looking for new people, because the level of craftsmen, not the same. So now if somebody needs my help, there's so much do-it-yourself out there, and there's so much online that people can purchase. I help them figure it out, space planning and kind of talking them through it. But I'm a consultant now. I don't do the big remodeling like I was doing for many years. In fact, I wore a t-shirt. Okay, I'm going to do this, Jessica. I wore this t-shirt. That's why I don't have any jewelry on. This is one of the award-winning kitchens that I remodeled, and a shirt was made out of it.
Linda, I have a question.
Yes, Judy.
What are, I don't know, like the latest trends? And I don't know if I'm going to go with the trends or not go with the trends, but like for window treatments.
You know, it's interesting that you would ask what the latest trends are, because the trends, they just revolve. I mean, they're right now, if somebody said the latest trend, it would be like solar shades, or there's really nothing that new. And your window treatments have to do with the decor of your room. And it also has to do with what level of daylight you need at different times. So you can go anywhere from elaborate draperies just down to the shades and so on. There's no specific thing happening that's any different.
What questions should you ask when you're trying to decide who the interior designer will be best partnered with you?
What question should you ask? Well, I guess just in a general, when you're talking to the person and you tell them what your hopes are, what your thoughts are of what you want, for me, it would be their reaction. Like if they're like, well, you know, right now this is in and that isn't, you know, I would definitely not hire that person. But if they're like, yes, I'm hearing you, I understand, and we'll work with that. And I come out and tell people, you know, and what is your budget? Because, you know, if somebody has this fantasy and they're not comfortable with spending the money that would create it, you need to know that. And you need to, same as the client needs to know what kind of designer, you know, what are they thinking they're going to spend of your money, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's in that first consultation that you learn a lot about each other.
Linda, I'm confused what you mean when you were talking about staging a home in vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
So what composes, let's say, the living room of the home that you're showing? What composes a vignette? And would people be able to use portions of that vignette once the furniture comes into the new home?
No, the vignettes are usually the belongings of the person who is selling the house. So the new owner would not be using the things from the vignettes.
But what do you mean by vignettes then? Is it
Okay.
a sofa? Is it a chair? Is it?
Well, it can be any of those things. It depends on what the client has that would be appropriate and not too outdated or old looking to use in the setting. So sometimes in a room, it would just be like a single chair with a small table, maybe a plant with it and a lamp in a corner. You know, that's a vignette. You don't necessarily need to furnish the room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Linda, you've given us some great ideas and great tips, and I'm sure that we could continue talking the rest of the afternoon. I did want to close this particular Wednesdays with Women's Philanthropy series, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. As a reminder, the sessions have been recorded, so if you're talking to someone or if you want to re-listen to what's been said, or you're talking to someone who didn't have an opportunity to come on, make sure they go on to the Women's Philanthropy webpage, which is wp.jfedstl.org. We welcome you to stay on, and if you have questions or you want to chat with the other women that are on this chat. But whatever you do, have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. And thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Bonnie.
you.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to talk a little more, that's great. Or just chat about something else is great.
Thank you.
Can I
Linda.
ask? Oh, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So here, my question is: do you have any advice
on dealing with your significant other when you tend to be someone who can visualize the space or what it would look like, and the other, it's like a deer in a headlight. Like, has no clue, can't figure out what I'm talking about. What sort of advice in trying to communicate the vision?
Well, that's a tough one, but I have a lot of clients that actually use me for that purpose, because it's interesting how spouses cannot hear what you're saying, but because I am a professional, he understands my words. Very interesting, isn't it? Now, my words could be saying exactly what you're saying, and a lot of times they are, but it's about validation. It's about comfort. Usually it's the spouse is uncomfortable and thinks you're going to spend way too much money or change things that he's comfortable with. And you have to kind of explain it in a way that it's, the best thing to always say is that it's value because you're investing in your home, or you're going to maximize the usage of your space. You know, all those lovely little catch words that spouses kind of pay attention to.
Hi, Linda. I have a couple of things. What does a consultant do in this industry? I'm confused with what you say. You're a consultant.
Okay, so instead of me doing what I've been doing for 44 years, which is the big projects coming in, doing the whole thing, I'm consulting with the homeowner, where a lot of people now are doing it themselves and want to purchase themselves through online sites and so on. And I'm helping them with their fear issues, you know, oh, is this going to be the right thing? Or will that go with that? So I consult with them about how to put their space together and size-wise and what works.
So what you're saying is you used to get the contractors to do it and now you don't. You give your opinion. Is that it?
My professional opinion, yes.
Your professional opinion. That's cool. What do you charge for your professional opinion?
I charge $135 an hour, because most people who are just using me that way do not need me for very long.
What's an average, Linda?
For just
Say for a kitchen, for your opinion.
Wow, that's real. I don't have an average. I really don't. What I tell people is they need to set a limit. They need to say, okay, in their minds, or tell me, whatever, you know, I have X amount of dollars for consulting, and I'll tell them, well, then you need to really listen and get this done. Because the time is about the people's indecision. I can get a kitchen done in the blink of an eye, but the people have to see either. I tell them, if you have to see everything that's out there in the industry, it's going to cost you a lot more.
So when somebody, let's say, so you don't source your customer?
I don't now.
You don't source. Okay.
Not anymore.
Okay. And also I'm confused, like Marilyn was. I don't know what a vignette is, and I don't understand what you're saying that you need to do. What do you take 4 of your chairs and put it like a little speaking group together or something? No, I'm confused.
Like I say, this is for people who've moved out of their home and their home is empty.
Oh, okay.
And I use some of the things that they own and that they used in their home before they moved out. And I set up think of it as staging in terms of small scale. A vignette is just like a small area set up to make a room feel like could be their home or what you could use it for.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? You want another little story before we leave?
I just wanted to say quickly, it was really nice seeing your sister.
Yeah, it's always great seeing my sister.
Hi, Karen.
Sorry, Jerry wasn't on. But I just want to close with this because it's a great little story. I talked to a young woman, and this was several years ago, but I interviewed her on the phone. We talk, and I know certain questions to ask first. And She told me she was definitely traditional. And so at the time, wallpaper was very popular everywhere. So I always brought out wallpaper books. And for me, the wallpaper books were like the Rorschach test. And we would go through some books, and then I could tell from her reaction, her facial expressions, her body movements, you know, what she was really, even though the words were saying something different. So I did this, right? And she kept insisting. She was very traditional. Well, from her answers on the phone, I knew to bring some more transitional, a little to contemporary. And we're going through these books, and she's looking at the traditional, and she's like, and then I show her the other, and she's like, oh. So I said to her, you know, did you ever think you really aren't just traditional? Oh, she said, I have to be because my mother is. And I said, well, this isn't your mother's house. She said, I know, but I said, trust me, go with what will make you and your family happy. Your mother will be fine. So we do this whole thing. We make it more contemporary, transitional. The unveiling comes, the mother walks in, the mother stands there aghast. And she turns to her daughter and she says, well, thank God you didn't do traditional. And that solved that problem. So you never know. Go with what you love. That's what counts. Not just what you like, but with what you love. Anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Love you.
Hope
Bye-bye.
Susan, Bonnie, we really need to get distant together.